When I looked through the project, this one really stood out for me. I thought this was just tremendous. It feels like a market, genuinely, more like a market than a supermarket, and that's the huge leap forward for a supermarket.
You know, if I would shop there.
Would you rather go to Tesco's or there?
Yeah. It's got great integrity, and it's not flashy. It's carefully detailed, respecting the old structure, the old fabric, and then the insertions are so legible.
Very simple.
So it's very compelling, really.
It's a really poetic idea, like reusing industrial heritage as public space. I think it's really beautiful.
It's a lovely scheme. Of course, it's a question of the degree of achievement, but it's really lovely.
The way they've got new intervention, but they've also used the existing fabric of the building and they're celebrating that. And also it's the honesty of materials, it's great in terms of composition.
What I like a bit about this project is that it's very contemporary, and this is where architecture is sort of going in there as well. That's sort of domestic. I love the fact that it still feels very domestic. It's a series of houses brought together into a museum. It still feels the kind of space I would like to. Yeah, indeed, I'd like to explore
because
it.
Because it's been built up to feel so domestic and as though it's evolved over time.
I think what makes it really special is the cleverness of, as you say, the way he's found forms for the new.
At the moment, I think this is pretty special.
It's obviously great to win. The thing that really appealed to us about the awards is that it's quite an unusual one. There aren't really many awards like that out there, and yet it's so much a part of what architects do, and doing it well is difficult. I think a lot of architects would rather start with a blank site and build their thing from scratch, but you often can't do that. And I think trying to find ways of designing new buildings next to old buildings, restoring old buildings in a way that doesn't just resort to pastiche but also retains their character is quite difficult to do, and it's great that there's an award that recognises that. In terms of the sort of architectural challenges, clearly we were converting a listed building in quite a sensitive place on the village green in a sort of protected village, so lots of people were interested. We had to get it right. But we also had to restore the old village school buildings, which are the main museum buildings, which thankfully weren't listed, but were important to local people. So we had to get that right, and the budget was even tighter when we were doing those. And then we had to build two new buildings between the two to join it all together. And we had to, and those are very prominent in the middle of the village. So we wanted them to be architecturally good, but also to work well with the existing buildings. Right, yes, well obviously the car lodge which makes the new entrance on the village green was listed, and it actually worked very well because it was almost derelict and nobody knew what to do with it. It wasn't part of the museum. The museum was up the bank behind a fence. And so the idea of taking over the cart lodge, converting it to make the museum's new entrance was great, because it gives the museum a front door in the middle of the village on the village green, and saves a listed building, so it was a no-brainer really. And the nice thing is that there is a link to the ideas of the artists and craftsmen whose work is in the museum, because they were at the sort of, I suppose, the tail end of the arts and crafts movement, which was very concerned with ideas of truth to materials and authenticity of construction. So by using this material, we're sort of tying into that legacy, but also doing something new and authentic in its own right. Now, the shapes of the buildings, particularly the big new black building, the main building, I suppose it's a bit like a traditional Sussex barn, but one that's been sort of twisted and stretched, and it's almost a version of the cartilage. So I suppose it's something that allows a memory of the forms of buildings that were here, because the village green used to be a farmyard. Well, yeah, because we did the exhibition design as well, so we were thinking a lot about this from the very start, and certainly over the last 20 years, the types of museums and galleries that have tended to have been built have fallen into two main camps. One is the sort of, the icon, which tends to be all about the architecture, and sometimes the contents of the building are very much playing second fiddle to the architecture, not always in a good way. And then the other one is the white box gallery and museum, and again, I think the danger there is that there's a missed opportunity for the work in the collection to actually interact with the spaces that are designed for it. And what we wanted to do here was something different, which was to try to design spaces that help to bring out the meaning in the objects in the collection, but also to allow visitors to the museum to question the meaning of the objects, or to question the motivation of the artists who made them. And in that way, effectively, they're participating in the construction of meaning. And museums, I think, are not about a dry, dusty record. They're about constructing culture in themselves. And so if people visiting them are able to participate in that, then I think museums can actually be pretty fantastic places.